What is up? 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 What is up, Grocknation? Welcome back this evening into the arcade for another Murders and Mysteries. What is going on, Grocknation? 2 Murders and Mystery series in a course of 2 weeks, and we went like a year and a half between 2 and 3. I know. I actually just came across this, and it gave me the idea of this topic because it's something I've talked about for years. Have you ever thought you remembered an event in life, not in your personal life, but something you've experienced on like a global scale, whether it be a movie or a world event, whatever it may be, and only to find out it never actually happened that way? And it makes no sense as to how it hasn't happened that way in your opinion, because you vividly remember this. Well, this phenomenon is known as the Mandela Effect. Now, you yourself remembering something and forgetting or realizing it wasn't what it was, and everyone else is like, yeah, you were mistaken, is one thing. But when you and thousands upon thousands of other people in other countries don't speak English, can remember those events, that phenomena is the Mandela Effect, and we're going to discuss that tonight in Murders and Mysteries. Once again, though, before we get started, if you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. With that being said, guys, let's dig into this topic. So for those of you that have never heard about this phenomena, or maybe heard about it in passing but never really dug into it, and you're going, Grock, I'm just here to listen to some ASMR and relax, well, do that and use this as background noise to maybe make you think. And maybe this happened to you and you didn't even realize it. But we're going to really dig into this. I'm going to let you guys know, give you a rough overview of what this phenomena is. We're going to read articles on it and give you some examples. And then I'm going to give you my personal experiences with this, which I do have, like everybody else. And I'll give you my final opinion on what I think about this. And it's really, really, really creepy. It is a creepy phenomena. There are things in the Mandela Effect, I promise you, you will look into if you've never looked into it. And if you go into it big-headed and you go, well, this is stupid. There's no such thing. I remember everything and nothing's changed. No, there's shit that's changed, and I don't want to say proof, definitive proof, but I have some really reliable sources in my personal life that it'll make for a good story at the end of all this. But basically, Fiona Broome in 2009 coined the term the Mandela Effect when she realized, I think she did a blog, an internet blog or something, and she vividly remembered Nelson Mandela, the famous president of South Africa, the first black prime minister or president of South Africa. She remembers him having a funeral in the 80s. Now, I'm too young to remember that, so in terms of when this first came out, I'm like, that means nothing to me. I wasn't alive, or I was alive then, I was 2 years old, so, because they say he died in 1988. Nelson Mandela didn't die till 2013. But she vividly remembers this funeral, and his widow making a speech, and thousands upon thousands of people agreed with her and vividly remembered it as well, including details that she was remembering. So she started to dig into this phenomena further, and her website blew up with people giving examples of things that definitely happened and other people agree happened. They didn't exactly happen. I don't want to dig too much into the examples, but I'll give you one. For example, Forrest Gump. One of the famous scenes in Forrest Gump, one of the famous lines from Forrest Gump that is iconic in cinema history and pop culture as well, especially in the 90s, for us 90s kids, was, my mother always said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates. Everybody remembers it like that. I've watched the movie 1,000 times. I love the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. The new one, Home, I think it's called, by Zemeckis, same guy that did Forrest Gump. And he brought in Tom Hanks and Robin Wright as well. Great movie. We're off topic though. Watch it if you haven't. But I've watched Forrest Gump, and I thought that's an exaggeration, close to, I'd say at least 100 times in my life. It's one of those movies, when it's on TV, you just watch it. Life is like a box of chocolates. What if I were to tell you he never actually said that? He actually said, Mama, my mother always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. That literally is what it says. If you go back and watch it now and you listen to it and you put subtitles on, people have even found the VHS box, and it says it in the back of the VHS box, life was like a box of chocolates. You're like, there's no way that that's what it said. It's not. It doesn't even make sense. Why would his mother give him advice and say, something for us as he's a little boy? Life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. What? It's in a past tense. It doesn't make any sense. You're gonna tell your little boy, hey, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Life was. It's like you're reminiscing. You're looking back on it. Why would you tell her boy that? It makes no sense. It changed. That's what the Mandela Effect is. It's a pop culture, a global thing that everybody remembers one way, but it really isn't. And the only explanation is it's changed. But you're like, how is it fucking possible that changed? There's no way all of Hollywood got together and it's like, we're gonna change this line. We're gonna alter every single movie, every single DVD, every single everything, and change it. We're gonna go and find all the box VHSs and change the back from life is like to life was like. How is that even possible? It's not. It's not possible. I don't want to give the Moonraker story until the end because it involves one of my definitive truths, I guess you could say. But that's an example, like things like that. Now there's theories as to why this phenomena happened, and we'll dig into it in this one article. It goes through it a lot. I'll just kind of give a brief description of what these theories are. Actually, the one isn't talked about in here, but it's super far-fetched. That one is time travel. And it's ridiculous, I know. But again, when you start to look into this, if you go down the rabbit hole of the Mandela Effect, like I said, I promise you, you'll find something that wasn't there before. Time travel. Someone, I don't know if it was a physicist, came up with a theory. Physicists have come up with one of these other theories, alternate timelines, but we'll go through that in a second. That time travel might be a result of this. And you're going, what would time travel possibly have to do with this? Well, if humans in a way, way, way distant future decided to come back, say they came back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 50s, whatever it may be, to travel, and they did something, which is another phenomena called the butterfly effect, which is, again, I think it's another physicist theory, that if you go back in time and you alter absolutely anything, the results of that will trickle through time and it'll change things. You could step on a plant that would have pollinated, or step on a flower that a bee would have pollinated that would have resulted in, another field being pollinated and feeding other wildlife that would have resulted in, so it keeps rolling on, things like that. It got the name butterfly effect from the single flap of a butterfly wing on one side of the world could cause a tsunami on the other side, That's something else maybe we could dig into another time in this series, because it's a really, really cool theory as well. But the gist of it is, the theory of time traveler came back and did something insignificant, but it changed certain events in life, in our timeline, that it shouldn't have been changed. And it'll be little minute things we won't notice at first initially. And everyone figures that might, not everyone, but that's one of the theories that might be why certain things are changed. Alternate timelines, timelines that are getting intermixed, like we're crossing two timelines, alternate realities have collided, kind of, or crossed, I don't know. And so in other timelines, for example, in an alternate timeline, Forrest Gump, the movie, says life was like a box of chocolates. Now it's, crossed over with our timeline, and that's how it's remembered. Everyone remembers it differently because we're from our original timeline, whereas the new timeline, no, it was life was like a box of chocolates. They've actually talked with actresses, actors, directors, things like that with a lot of these Mandela effects. They're like, wait a second, you do remember saying this, right? And they're like, no, I remember saying that. And the theory with alternate timelines is, of course, they would remember that they're from that timeline. They don't know they are, but they're from that timeline. So in their version, they did say life was like a box of chocolates, whereas the rest of us are like, no, it was always life is like a box of chocolates. But there's tons of examples. I almost said one of the biggest ones I ever came across. But with that being said, let's dig into this article because I really want to talk about this. And I'm really, really, really interested on your guys' opinions on this. And if you experience this phenomena, I think you have. Like I said, even if you don't think you have, if you dig into it, trust me, you have. The Mandela Effect. How masses of people can have the same false memory. Is it Sex in the City, or is it Sex in the City? You know that creepy phenomena where some people remember historic events differently than others? Like when people thought the classic kids book was called Berenstain Bears, instead of the actual title, the Berenstain Bears. Yep, this weird event is called the Mandela Effect. Basically, the Mandela Effect refers to the situation in which a large mass of people believe an event occurred when it did not. The term originated in 2009 by Fiona Broome, after she discovered that she, along with a number of others, believed that Nelson Mandela had died in the 80s, when he actually died in 2013. Where does the Mandela Effect come from, and why do these strange perceptions of history keep happening? We have the answers to all your questions, plus famous examples of the Mandela Effect. The origins of the Mandela Effect. The term Mandela Effect was coined in 2009 by Fiona Broome when she created a website to detail her observance of the phenomenon. Broome was at a conference talking with other people about how she remembered the tragedy of former South African President Nelson Mandela's death in a South African prison in the 80s. However, Nelson Mandela did not die in the 80s in prison. He passed away in 2013. As Broome began to talk to others about her memory, she learned that she was not alone. Others remembered seeing news coverage of his death as well as a speech by his widow. Broome was shocked that such a large mass of people could remember the same identical event in such detail when it never happened. Encouraged by her book publisher, she began her website to discuss what she called the Mandela Effect and other incidents like it. Notable examples of the Mandela Effect. The story of Nelson Mandela is not the only example of this type of false group memory, as the concept of the Mandela Effect grew. Along with Broome's website, other group false memories began to emerge. Henry VIII eating a turkey leg is one, for example. The painting. People had a memory that the above portrait of Henry VIII featuring him eating or holding a turkey leg. Though no such painting has ever existed, there have, however, been similar cartoons created. This may be related to the common knowledge of Henry VIII as a large man. This one's really good. Luke, I am your father. If you saw Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, you probably remember Darth Vader uttering the famous line, Luke, I am your father, in a pivotal scene near the end of the film. You might be surprised to learn that the line was actually, no, I am your father. Most people have memories of the line being the former rather than the later, and it is commonly quoted incorrectly. Mirror, mirror on the wall. If you watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you probably remember the line, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? The line actually began with the phrase, magic mirror on the wall, instead. It probably doesn't help matters that Julia Roberts and Lily Collins starred in a 2012 action film based on Snow White called Mirror, Mirror. I always remember that as Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. I never remember Magic Mirror on the Wall. Oscar Mayer or Oscar Mayer. There's some controversy over the spelling of the famous brand of hot dogs, Oscar Mayer Wieners. Some people claim to remember the brand being spelled Mayer, M-E-Y-E-R, instead of Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R, which is the correct spelling. To be fair, the brand pronunciation is closer matched to Mayer spelling, while Mayer with an A is often pronounced differently, as in the musician John Mayer's name. Location of New Zealand. Where is New Zealand in relation to Australia? If you look at the map, you will see that it is in the southeast of the country. However, there is a community of people who claim to remember New Zealand being in the northeast instead of the southeast. That's something I don't remember. This one's huge, and this is actually the first one that really got me onto the Mandela Effect. The Berenstain Bears. The famous children's book series, The Berenstain Bears, created by Stan and Jan Berenstain, is not immune to the Mandela Effect. Many people report remembering the name being Berenstain, B-E-R-E-N-S-T-E-I-N, Bears, spelled with an E instead of an A. This is similar to the Oscar Mayer issue and hints at perhaps an underlying cognitive reason for the Mandela Effect instead of parallel realities, as some people believe. Now, again, I don't want to dig too much into this, but the reason why this one is big for me is I vividly remember as a little kid being so proud of myself that I could spell Berenstain Bears, because it was S-T-E-I-N. It was like such an odd name that I could spell it. If it was Stain, I don't think I ever would have been proud of myself for spelling Stain. So that to me was the very first one that really made me go, wait a second, what the hell's going on? This next one as well, guys, and this is another one I'm going to discuss in the end of my personal experiences. Shazam starring Sinbad. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the collective memory of a movie called Shazam that starred actor-comedian Sinbad in the 90s. In fact, no movie exists, although there was a children's movie called Kazam starring Shaquille O'Neal, and some other coincidences that could help explain how the movie became created or remembered in many people's minds. Even more confusing, there is now a movie series based on a DC Comics superhero, Shazam, though it does not star Sinbad. I never really got into Pokemon. I was too old at the time when it came out, but this is something I do remember. Pikachu's black-tipped tail. Many people report remembering Pikachu, a Pokemon character, as having a black-tipped tail. In reality, the character has always had a solid yellow tail. The confusion or false memory may stem from the fact that Pikachu, as you can see, does have black-tipped ears. Now, I always thought he had a black-tipped tail because I remember it being, it's like the shape of a lightning bolt or a zigzag, right? And the very tip is black. I'm almost positive. I've always remembered that from pictures of him and videos. This next one as well is odd, and I'm pretty sure I remember this. Mickey Mouse's suspenders. Mickey Mouse might be the most famous cartoon character in the world, but even Disney's famous mouse is often misremembered in the minds of fans. People often report the character wearing suspenders when he does not. The original Mickey is wearing shorts, but is completely unclothed in the top half of his body. I always remember suspenders, and if there was no suspenders, why is there those two buttons there? This was another one. Sally Field's famous Oscar speech. When Sally Field won the Oscar in 1985, her acceptance speech included the oft-parodied line, "You like me, you really like me." Except what she actually said was, "I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me." Children of the 90s probably owe their false memory to Jim Carrey's parody of the line in the film The Mask, when his character utters the line, "You love me, you really love me," in clear homage to Field's speech. Again, I'm too young to remember the actual speech. I do remember it being parodied a lot, including The Mask. So this one, I'm like, that's possible. That I thought she said that because I heard Jim Carrey say it in The Mask. Looney Tunes. No, really, it's not Looney Tunes. Yes, the Looney Tunes are in fact cartoons, not cartoons. Cartoons. And yes, you may remember watching the next generation of cartoons or characters on a TV show called Tiny Toon Adventures. Nonetheless, the original show was Looney Tunes, spelled Tunes, not Looney Tunes, Toons, as a companion to Merry Melodies. That's another one of those. I'm not sure. I feel like it was Tunes, Toons, but apparently it was tunes, like music tunes. Jiffy Peanut Butter. There's Jiffy Lube, there's Jiffy Popcorn, there's Skippy Peanut Butter, and you may be able to whip up PB&J in a jiffy. But no, there is no such thing as Jiffy Peanut Butter. It is and always has been Jif, J-I-F. Though many people would swear to the contrary, I do think I remember it just always being Jif, but I don't think we used that brand very much when I was a kid. This one is one that I just discovered recently and it actually gave me the idea to do this video. Curious George's Tail. This one is, well, curious. The assumption is that Curious George is a monkey, and most monkeys are understood to have tails. Many remember Curious George having a tail, but alas, everyone's favorite curious primate is in fact tailless. We hope this hasn't caused Curious any kind of existential crisis. I, like a lot of people, remember him having a tail because there was episodes where he was hanging by his tail on certain things with the man with the yellow hat. And now he has no fucking tail, and you look through all the books, all the pictures, you can't find a tail on him. This is so weird. Next is Fruit Loops. You can thank Kellogg's for this entry in the weird spelling section of the Mandela Effect catalog. While the very known cereal is supposedly fruit flavored, they decided to lean into the loops and double up on the double O's, opting for Fruit Loops, F-R-O-O-T, instead of Fruit, F-R-U-I-T, Loops. Much to our surprise, so apparently it's always been spelled Fruit Loops with two O's. I don't know. Again, labels. This next one as well. Fruit of the Loom. You may not be able to identify every piece of fruit in the logo for the clothing brand Fruit of the Loom, but everybody at least knows that there is a cornucopia behind all the fruit, right? Wrong. Just ask the company behind itself. There is no cornucopia, even if we all remember it. I slightly remember a cornucopia behind it, though. Like, looking at it now, I'm pretty sure. This next one for my Star Wars nerds out there might bug you a bit. But C-3PO, the famed Star Wars droid, has a silver right leg. But we won't blame you for getting this wrong, given the lower resolution of older films, the character often being shot from the waist up, and the fact that the original line of toys featured an all-gold C-3PO. It's no surprise how surprising it is to discover he had a silver leg all along. So C-3PO has a silver leg, apparently. And these are good reasons as to why we might think that. Like I said, the old movies, the VHS and everything else, the resolution was god-awful. And really, there is no, full-body shots of him for long periods of time in a movie where you would notice and, who's going to look at his entire body and look for, an area that's not gold. I don't understand it. This Casablanca one. Casablanca is one of the most famous films of all time, and while many decades later more and more people have not seen it, what is nonetheless known is the famous line, "Play it again, Sam." Unfortunately, if you're familiar with that line, you may be confused to learn that it actually was never said in that exact way in the film. Ingrid Bergman's character does, however, say, "Play it once, Sam." Adding to the confusion may be that Woody Allen made a film in '72 called "Play It Again, Sam," about a film critic obsessed with Casablanca. I don't remember that. This one's another weird one. Hollywood contributed to the Mandela Effect when in 2019 Mr. Rogers' biopic was named A Beautiful Day in a Neighborhood, of reference to the opening line of the famous song that opened every episode of Fred Rogers' show. It's a beautiful day in a neighborhood. In reality, the song opens with the line, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood." I do not remember it being sung that way, and I watched this every morning when I was a kid. This, Mr. Dress Up in Sesame Street, Friendly Giant. It's a beautiful day in a neighborhood. I don't remember, but again, I was a little kid when I watched these. Maybe it was easier for me to say that. Maybe I heard other people singing it that way. I don't know, but it's weird. Mr. Monopoly's monocle. Rich Uncle Pennybags, aka Mr. Monopoly, sure seems like the type to wear a monocle, but in reality, the leading man of the board game. Everyone has played, but nobody has ever finished, can see just fine without a monocle. The leading theories are that he was mistaken for the monocled Mr. Peanut. Oddly, there is yet another Jim Carrey connection as well. A scene in Ace Ventura 2 features the pet detective encountering a monocled man he refers to as the Monopoly guy. So now we're going to get into explanations for the Mandela Effect. False memories. A more likely explanation for Mandela Effect involves false memories. Because we consider what is meant by false memories, let's look at the example of the Mandela Effect, as it will help us understand how memory can be faulty and may lead to the phenomena that we are describing. Who was Alexander Hamilton? Most Americans learned in school that he was a founding father of the United States of America, but that he was not a president. Americans, we don't know that shit as Canadians. No one else in the world knows that shit. However, when asked about the presidency of the United States, many people mistakenly believe that Hamilton was a president. Why? Did you guys? I have no idea. It's the first day I've ever heard that guy's name in my life. If we consider a simple neuroscience explanation, the memory of Alexander Hamilton is encoded in the area of a brain where the memories of the presidents of the United States are stored. The means by which memory traces are stored is called an engram, and the framework in which similar memories are associated with each other is called schema. So when people try to recall Hamilton, this sets off the neurons in close connection to each other, bringing with it the memory of presidents. Though this is an oversimplified explanation, it illustrates the general process. When memories are recalled rather than remembered perfectly, they are influenced to the point that they can eventually become incorrect. In this way, memory is unreliable and not infallible. I think it's infallible. Confabulation. Confabulation involves your brain filling in gaps that are missing in your memories to make more sense of them. This isn't lying, but rather remembering detail that never happened. Confabulation tends to increase with age. Misleading post-event information that you learn after an event, can change your memory of an event. This includes events' subtle information and help explain why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Priming. Priming describes the factors leading to an event that affects our perception of it, also called suggestibility and presumptuation. Our presupposition. Priming is the difference between asking how short a person is versus how tall a person is. Saying, "Did you see the black car?" instead of "a black car" makes a subtle suggestion that influences response and memory. In essence, memories are valuable bits of information stored in the brain that can be changed over time, which we assume that our memories are accurate. This is not necessarily the case. Alternate realities. One theory for the basis of the Mandela Effect originates from quantum physics and relates to the idea that rather than one timeline of events, alternate realities or universes may be taking place and mixing with our timeline. In theory, this would result in groups of people having the same memories because the timeline has been altered as we shift between those different realities. You aren't alone if you think this sounds unrealistic. Unfortunately, the idea of alternate realities is unfalsible, meaning there is no way to disprove that these other universes don't truly exist. This is why a far-fetched theory continues to gain traction among the Mandela Effect communities. You can't prove it's not real, so you can't discount the possibility of it. For many people, the excitement of a bit of mystery in everyday life also comes into play. So the recap. While the notion of alternate realities might appeal due to its air of mystery, many examples of the Mandela Effect are likely due to some type of collective misremembering. Incorrectly recalling information is, in fact, quite common. One study found that 76% of people made some type of mistake when asked to recall information. The Internet's impact. The role of the Internet in influencing the memories of the masses should not be underestimated. It's probably no coincidence that consideration of the Mandela Effect has grown in a digital age. The Internet is a powerful way to spread information, and with this spreading of information comes the potential for misconceptions and falsehoods to gain traction. People then begin to create communities based around these falsehoods, and that was once in the imagination starts to seem factual. In fact, in a large study of over 100,000 news stories discussed across Twitter, conducted over a period of 10 years, showed that hoaxes and rumors won out over truth every time by about 70%. This wasn't the result of manipulation or bots. Either real verified accounts of real people were responsible for spreading false information at a much higher rate than truth. This notion of the speed of which false information spreads on the internet could help explain the Mandela Effect. As each person chimes in with their own experience of memory of an event, those falsehood memories could affect the memories of other people, thus coloring them to remember the events the same way. For example, Sinbad did star in other movies in the 90s and appeared in a movie poster for the film House Guest. Coming out of a mailbox, this looks similar to a genie, which could explain the association with the movie Shazam. Sinbad also dressed up like a genie for an event he hosted in the 90s. When one person mentioned this movie Shazam, likely on the internet, it altered the memories of other people who tried to recall the movies that Sinbad made from the 90s. Online communities spread this information until it appeared to be factual. This explanation is supported by evidence that remembering something repeatedly builds your confidence in the memory, even as it grows more inaccurate over time. As more and more people provided incorrect details, these became incorporated in other people's memories as facts and strengthened their conviction that they were correct. The Mandela Effect continues to be hotly debated, despite reasonable evidence that it is more likely explained in terms of fallibility of human memory than some form of parallel universes at work. Of course, we don't know everything. As more incidents of the Mandela Effect continue to occur, perhaps more research into origins will shed lights on the causes. So that's a pretty decent article that kind of explains away a lot of the Mandela Effect. So what we're going to talk about now, to finish this off, is my personal experiences with it and why I believe it is actually real. If you know me, which those of you that have been in this channel a long time know, and people in my real life know, I have an elephant memory. I always say my earliest memories of 2 years old is sitting in a high chair, being fed by my grandmother. Like I said, a really good memory, like the one I have, is both a gift and a curse. It's a gift in that I can remember crazy amount of things, never forget faces, remember significant life events. But it is also a curse in that I remember loved ones that are not here anymore very vividly. So when I tell you that I remember something some way, and you go, well, you're just misremembering, remember that I do have an elephant memory. And we're going to discuss a few things as to why I think this is real. Like I said, a lot of the examples they gave, Curious George's Tale, the Berenstain Bears, Shazam, the Sinbad movie from the 90s. This is significant. Let's talk about that first. When Shazam came out, I was living in Colbacious, Saskatchewan, which is a tiny little hovel in the middle of fucking nowhere, northern Saskatchewan. Like 200 people. I've talked about this before. We didn't have anything. We had a community satellite dish that picked up USA Network and HBO, which the town paid for. They paid for our HBO every month, and everyone got to leech off of it, basically, the big satellite. I remember Shazam being on there and watching it. I remember it vividly. I remember Sinbad in there, because I remember going, he's in a lot of movies lately, he was in there. And then he had his HBO special shortly after that as well, his stand-up special, which was terrible. He was also in Jingle All the Way around that time, like within a few years. And I was like, he's in a lot of movies. To find out that movie never existed, and then for everyone to tell me that it's Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal. I don't remember Shaquille O'Neal being in any fucking movies when I was a kid, let alone a genie movie called Kazam. I don't remember him acting ever in anything ever in my life. So, and I'm a kind of a movie buff. Not a movie historian, which we're going to get to next, but a movie buff. So that for me is like, what the hell? Why would I not? Where would I get that from? Who would be giving me misinformation in the 90s in Colby, Saskatchewan that I would remember the movie Shazam with Sinbad as a shitty genie? I remember it. The next one is kind of a story time, but it involves it as well. So I broached this to my friend Dave, who had never heard about it, and this is about 3 or 4 years ago. And he's like, it's bullshit. And I was like, you don't remember this? And he's like, no, I remember this. And life is like a box of chocolates. He remembered that. And he goes, oh, well, maybe it always was. Life was like a box of chocolates. I don't know. It's stupid to think otherwise. I was giving him all these examples. Luke, or not Luke, I'm your father, but no, I am your father. All this stuff. There's lots, guys, in movies. There's a lot. What I never watched ever in my life was Moonraker, the 007 movie. My buddy Dave is a movie historian. He's got an elephant memory when it comes to movies. It's freaky how you could say, who's that bald actor that was in so-and-so movie in the 90s, and he'll instantly, that's so-and-so. You know, who was the one that played the daughter in so-and-so? Oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, and she married so-and-so now, and she was in this, last year. Things like that. Like, he's like my IMBD, I always say. If I ever want to think about movies and think about actors, I used to play a game with him where I used to actually, at work, our Bluetooth speaker in our booth, I would play random movie scenes from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, clips. I would play 10-second clips, and he would guess, and he would get them right all the time. One of the reasons he would get them right, he was to think about the actor, and then he would think about the context of what's being said, and he would instantly come up with the answer. So Moonraker, and this, for me, is one of my definitive proofs, I always say, because it's like Forrest Gump and life was like a box of chocolates. It makes no sense otherwise. So in Moonraker, one of the famous Bond villains, Jaws, is climbing out of rubble. A girl helps him, and as she helps him, he smiles at her with, of course, his big chrome mouth, and she smiles back at him. And when she smiles, this is what everyone gets fucked up over right now. If you're watching this, you're listening to this, you go, yeah, she had big braces. They have metal mouths. That's why they like each other. And that song plays. I told Dave that. I said, do you remember this scene? I was playing it for him on YouTube. He goes, yeah, what happens next? I actually played the YouTube clip to show him. And he goes, well, she smiles. She has she has braces. And I played it. I'm like, no, she has no braces. And he got angry. He actually got angry. He goes, fuck you. This whole thing's fucking stupid. I'm like, I just proved it to you. You have a Mandela Effect now. And he's like, no, fuck you. I was like, Dave, he's like, she has braces. And he started looking. I'm like, she's never had braces. I'm telling you. He's like, I seen it in theaters. She has braces. And I'm like, I know. It makes no sense. That scene makes no sense without her having braces. None whatsoever. Why would she be attracted to him? And then she slowly smiles and reveals amazing teeth. And he's got this big chrome mouth. No, she was supposed to have braces. So they both have metal mouths. He takes her by the hand and he walks her away. Yeah, so my buddy Dave, like I said, this is one of the things. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, for real, like this. And he was so mad, in denial. I'm like, you just proved it. Like, you, my movie historian, just fucking proved it. But there's so many other examples I could give you guys, and I believe in it. I do believe in it. I do believe something's wrong. I've seen enough now that I'm like, that's my conclusion. I don't know why it's happened. I don't know how it's happened, but clearly something's wrong. And like I said, Moonraker, I brought this up earlier. They actually, Mandela Effect community contacted that actress. They're like, did you wear braces in that movie? And she says, no, I never had braces. I never wore braces. And people are like, well, there, it proves it. Well, then you go, well, no. If our timelines are interconnected or they're intertwined now, in her timeline, she shot it and she might not have had braces. Whereas ours, where you remember she did. But again, in context, it doesn't make any sense that she would not have braces. It doesn't make zero sense. But let me know what you guys think down below. And with that being said, everyone have a great day, great night, whatever it may be. And Peace out. Peace out, peace out, peace out, peace out, peace out. Bye, guys.